Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Jess Praise Divine. I'm here to give you a word on tonight. And the topic going to be Jacob's dream at Bethel, a vision of a lad. Now we left off yesterday when Isaac had called for Jacob to bless him a second time. You know, and bless him to his blessing was just overflowing because he obeyed. Isaac gave him a command and Jacob obeyed. But Esau did not obey. So he will exit through to the bloodline. Uh, but Jacob blessing just started overflowing because he obeyed his parents and he went and got a wife where they told him to go get a wife at. So that was yesterday. Today's lesson, Jacob will have a dream, while he lying down. Gonna take some stones and make it as a pillar. And I mean, he just gonna be so comfortable laying down there dreaming, and God gonna be talking to him in that dream, letting him know about his promise plan. God gonna promise things to him, and God gonna also tell him about his plan, and God gonna let him know, I'm gonna be with you, I'm gonna watch over you. I'm not gonna leave you until my promise is fulfilled. So this package is gonna come from 28. We still on 28, but this is the last part of 28, chapter 10 through 22 of Genesis. So now Jacob loved his sheep. His father had told him to go where your mother had, where your mother brother lived at, so you can marry one of his daughters. So he loved his sheep. He set out for Haran. So Jacob reached a certain place. He reached a certain place and he stopped there. He stopped there to rest, because he on a journey. So he stopped there to rest. Now he took some bricks, and he fixed it as a pillar and laid down and rest. He got so comfortable, got so comfortable, got into a deep dream. You know, uh, he laid down and while he's sleeping, now he's sleeping now, and he's seeing a ladder from heaven all the way down. Then he's seeing angels just standing all on the steps. Then when he look up, there's God at the top. He said a ladder coming from way from heaven all the way down to earth. With his top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were seating and deceiving on it. So they had a number of angels. I saw the video. They had a number of angels all on the side. I mean, it was just so beautiful, and God was at the top. So now Jacob are dreaming. He's still dreaming, and he's seeing this ladder coming from heaven all the way down to earth. So above the ladder, he see stood up there was the Lord. And he said, I am. Now God said, I am the Lord, you know, the God of Abraham and Isaac. I'm going to be your God also. So now God telling him he will give him his offspring, the land on which he'll lie on. So God says, see that land that you lying on? I'm going to give that land to you and your offspring. You're going to leave this land right here, but then I'm going to have you to come back to this land. See, God telling him pieces of his plan. Now your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and they will spread out like the east, the west, the north, the south, and his offspring, his children was the Israelite. Jacob had so many children already. When God told them to go multiply, they multiplied greatly, because they multiplied as a great nation. Just like God said just now, your offspring gonna be like the dust. They're gonna be like the north, the east, the west, the south. The Israelite was so large, you couldn't even count them no more. You couldn't count them no more. That's why the new king they had over there wanted to kill all the males because they were just growing so rapidly, and they thought showed the Israelite was gonna turn on them and kill them. So that's why they wanted to kill all the boys. So that's what God said. They're gonna be so large. They're gonna be from the east to west to south. They're gonna cover up that whole land of Canaanites. You know, they're going to cover that whole land up. That's what God said. They're going to be on the east. They're going to be on the west, the south, the north. They're going to be all over. You know, that just how large they will be. Now, so now his offspring is, you know, the Israelites. You know, they were spread out so large. You know, so it was so great. There was a great nation from the west to east to south. You know, they covered up the whole earth. I mean, the whole earth of the Canaanite land. You know, you could not count them anymore. That just how large they was. You know, now all the people, now God said all the people on earth will be blessed through you. You know, because see that blessing, God gave that blessing to Abraham. You know, then they passed that blessing on to Isaac. Now they passing all this blessing over to Jacob. You know, Jacob had flaws. He was messing up. He took Esau play, but it was part of God's plan. You know, because Jacob is getting blessed in all kind of ways. He getting blessed in all kind of ways. You know, uh, throughout Jacob's life, you know, proceeding God's plan, God will be faithful. You know, now God making this promise to Jacob. You know, and as God make a promise to you, He gonna be faithful to you. Now he telling Jacob, you know, through your journey, I'm gonna be with you. I will never leave you. You know, I'm gonna watch over you. You know, I'm gonna be with you wherever you go, whatever you do. I'm gonna be there. You know, and He said, I will bring you back to this land. You know, and you know, he delivered the Israelite from slavery. And when he delivered the Israelite, he did took them back to their land. It took 40 years, but they got back to their land. Just like God said, you know, He said, I will never leave you until I've done, you know, what I had promised you. Now, see, that's what God said. God said, what I promised you, you know, I will not leave you until that promise is fulfilled. You know, so now God promised to Jacob, his offspring, you know, the land that he is lying on. God will bring you back. God will bring your offspring back to this land. You know, so Jacob's offspring was spread out so wide. You know, they're gonna be from the east, north, south, just like God said. You know, everyone on earth will be blessed because of Jacob. You know, Jacob and his offspring will be blessed, and God will watch over Jacob, and to God promised will come to pass. You know, so God did just that. You know, we all know God did just that. Now He freed the Israelite from slavery, and then He brought them back to their land, just like He said. He said, "That land that you lying on, you're going to leave this land and your offspring will come back to this land." See, God already know. And see, Jacob was young at that time when he saw this lie. You know, so after God spoke to him, he was supposed to start doing this here, getting this plan started, but Jacob didn't. You know, so God said, this land that you laying on, I'm gonna bring your offspring back to this land. And God did just that. He brought them back to this land. You know, God, you know, back to this land that He promised them, and there was a great nation, and God was with them the whole time. Now we know God was with them the whole time. God took care of them. It took them 40 years, but God took care of them. God dropped food down from heaven. God made sure that their shoes didn't well, their clothes didn't well. You know, God took care of them. You know, He made sure they were taken care of because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, God took care of the Israelites. You know, Jacob, now this is amazing. You know, now you sleep. You're hearing God talking to you, and God is telling you all this here good stuff. You know, now you wake up and you still seeing something beautiful. You know, anybody be afraid. He was afraid a little bit, you know, but then he said, oh, surely, you know, then God, see, Jacob woke up and he thought surely the Lord was in this place. He heard God's voice clear, you know, so when he woke up, he knows surely that God was in this place. You know, God, I heard His voice. I heard Him talking. I heard Him making promises. And, you know, so then he waking up. He for sure know that God was in this place, and he was not aware of it. See, there'll be something, you dreaming. And then you wake up, you seeing a whole nother place that you're not aware of. Jacob said, I'm not aware of this here. I'm waking up into something, something that is so amazing. So Jacob woke up in a place that he not aware of. He was afraid, but he said, how awesome this is, because it was beautiful. He said, how awesome this is. He was afraid, but he said, how awesome this is. You're waking up and you seeing something beautiful. You seeing stars going up to heaven. First you dreaming, but then you woke up. You still in a place that you're not aware of. So he still feel like you still in a dream after you done woke up. So this is none other than the house of God. You know, he realized this is nothing but the house of God. You wake up into something that you're not aware of. But one thing can come in mind: this is the house of God. You know, this is a house of God, the gate of heaven. So early the next morning, Jacob took the stone. Remember the stones that he was laying under as a pillar. So he took the stone that he had placed under his head. He set it up as a pillar and he poured oil on top of it. He put oil on top of the stones. You know, put oil on top of the stone. Now he called that place Bethel. The city to be called. It used to be called Lewis. You know, uh, and he changed it to Bethel. So now Jacob made a vow to God, saying, if God will be with me, remember God said, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to watch over you. He said, God going to be with me and God going to watch over me on this journey. I am taking and I will give, myself food to eat and clothes, you know, and then I will return safely to my faithful household. And then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that he set up, remember he put oil on the stones, as a pillar. It will be God. He gonna honor it to God's house. And all that you give me, I will give you 10. And see, that's why a couple of packets I put out. God said he always faithful to Abraham because see Abraham line, the bloodline always honor God. You remember Abraham planted that tree. He honored that to God. He said an everlasting God. And now we see that Jacob, he making a vow to God. He making a vow to God. You know, he took some stones. Them stones represent God. He took them stones. He put oil on top of it. He said, "This is a house of God." You know, and see, his grandfather Abraham did the same thing when he planted that tree. They always honor something to God because God is just that good to him. See, when God just that good to you, you want to honor him with something. I know when I get my business and get everything started and set up, I'm going to honor something to God. When God be that good to you, why not honor something to him? You see Abraham, we see Jacob honoring something to God. He taking them stones mean something to him, because he laid his head on the stones when he heard and saw God, and Abraham, you know, God had blessed him in all kind of ways. And Abraham planted that tree. He said, I'm honoring this tree to God. This is an everlasting God. And this is going to be an everlasting tree. That's why when the Israelites did possess their land, that was the first thing God told. Do not cut these trees down. Do not cut these trees down. Because those trees mean something to God. It always means something. Them trees mean something to God. Abraham planted trees and honored that to God. So remember when I had put that out like last year or 4, 5, 6 months ago. When they possessed their land, we're gonna get to that again. He possessed their land. The first thing God told him, do not cut those trees. So we see they have a place in their heart that they're gonna always honor God, and we could do the same thing too. When God be that good to you, why not honor something to him? He honored the stones. He said, "This gonna be the house of God." The God house. and all that you give him to give Jacob, he said, I'm gonna give you 10%. So now, you know, um, the package God said, all the package I had put out, Abraham and his offspring always honoring God. Abraham had planted a tree and honored it to God, an everlasting God. So now we see that Jacob made a vow to God. Now he set stones as a pillar and put oil on top of it. He said it's the God house. So we see this bloodline here. They love honor to God because God been good to them. And God good to them even after death. Abraham gone, God still blessing Isaac. Isaac gone, God still blessing Jacob. So God still being good to them generation after generation. So God promised Jacob in his dream. So God had reassured Jacob promises to be with him, to make his family into a great nation, and to bring them back from Egypt through Jacob, through Jacob himself would die in Egypt. You remember, Jacob was already living in Canaan. When he found out that Joseph was in Egypt, when he thought Joseph was dead, he already was living in Canaan. They had famine in the land, so he sent the boys to go get food. So he was living there. And remember, God told him the land that you lying on, you're going to have to leave that land and go somewhere else, and then you're going to have to come back. So he had to leave that land with that family. And then he had to go to Egypt. And he wound up dying in Egypt. But then they still took his body back to Canaan. So God promised still came to pass. When God write out something, sometimes God will write out the end before he finished the beginning. So God has said, you're going to leave this land, but you will come back. Even though he died, his body still came back. But they will bury him in a Canaan land. According to God's promise, his family will prosper before they return to the promised land. Like God said, before they enter the promised land, they will be prosperous. They will be rich. They will not have to want for anything. He took care of the Israelites, but they still complain. Jacob already was living in Canaan. And just like God said, the ground that you land on, you're gonna have to leave it. And then I'm gonna bring you and your offspring back. But Jacob wind up dying. But he brought the Israelites back to that land. He brought them back to that land, and they brought Jacob's body back to the land. So Jacob already was living in Canaan. He came back to Canaan just like God said. Just like God write his plan out, he made sure it is lined up just like he wrote it. He told them about his plan, in that dream. And we see that God's plan came all together just like he said. So that's the story. That's the story of Jacob and his dream of the ladder. And just what God had promised. Your offspring gonna be so large, they're gonna be covering up the whole Canaan land from the north, east, west, and south. And we know they were so greatly, multiplied so greatly. So they were so large. It took them years to divide that land up. That just how much of the Israelite it was. It took them a long time to divide. It took years for them to divide that land up. And it was greatly, greatly large that you couldn't even keep up with them no more. You couldn't even count them no more. They got so large. So that's Jacob's dream. Jacob's dream when God was telling him about the plan. Telling him about the land that he owned. That's the land God promised to them. But you're gonna have to leave because you gotta follow through God's plan. Even though He's not gonna just give stuff to you. Because I know he probably wonder why if I'm in a land, why I gotta leave. If you promised the land to why he ain't said all that. But a lot of time we do complain how God do things. God is a perfect planner. He know exactly what he's doing. But we all will complain. The Israelites complain, and God took care of them. They complained the whole time. God was dropping food down. They ain't had God. Their God said they was gonna eat till they get food every day, and they did. You know, they walked for 40 years. Shoes didn't even get worn out. You know, they didn't even get blister on their foot. You know, God just took care of them. You know, He took care of them. You know, due to Abraham. You know, so that's the story of the ladder. You know, God was talking to him about the plan that He promised. You know, the land that He promised to them. But then when Jacob woke up, it's like he was still in a dream. He was afraid, and he was like, "What is this?" You know, it was something that he was not aware of. That's something he never saw before. You know, all he's seeing a ladder. You know, angels all on a ladder, standing on a stairway, and they reaching all the way up to heaven. And who you think was standing at the top? You know, so he woke up afraid. You know, but then he had said, "Oh, this is awesome." You know, he said, "This is awesome." You know, it was just that beautiful. You know, so that was a dream. That was a dream to have. You know, a beautiful, wonderful dream that He promised everything to him in a dream. You know, and we see that God promised still came to pass. You know, so that's all the word I have for y'all tonight. You know, y'all have a safe night, and I see y'all on the next video.